Hello everyone, I'm Rick and thanks for joining me. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And if you're returning, please give me a like, it'll really help the channel grow. Today we're looking at my pick for 2025 best DAC under $100, the SMSL D1. Coming in at $79, it's priced similar to SMSL's SU1 and PS200. Let's take a closer look. On the front side, to the right, we have the power button, and if we give it a little tap, we'll see that the LED goes from red to white, and we can select our inputs with this button here on the left. Optical, coax, and back to USB. The little DSD button does glow green while you're cycling through the inputs. So just 3 inputs on this one, super easy. On the back side, again from the right, we have a couple of USB ports. The top one is for power. The bottom one is your USB data port. And this is what you would connect to your computer. Next are SPDIF inputs, a Toslink optical in, and a digital coax. Finally, the analog out on RCA. There are no switches on this one to change from USB audio class 2 to 1. This is a USB audio class 2 device only. And the D1 is slightly larger than the SU1 and the PS200. And the build quality matches that of the SU1, much better than the PS200. One thing that I do like about the SU1 and the PS200 though, is I really do prefer their hardware button as opposed to the touch button. Sometimes you have to fiddle a little bit with the power button to get it to respond. As for specs, unlike the SU1 that uses the AKM4493S DAC chip, or the PS200 that uses the ESS9039Q2M, the D1 uses the ROM 34352, capable of handling up to 32-bit 768 kHz PCM and DSD to 512, signal-to-noise ratio at 119 decibels, and THD plus N at -108 decibels. On paper, not as clean as the PS200's 123 decibel SNR and -118 decibel THD plus N, or even the SU1 at 121 decibel SNR and -117 decibel THD plus N. So I'd imagine the measurement guides won't be running out to buy one of these. But in my opinion, numbers aren't everything. This is only my second opportunity to test a ROM-based DAC. My first was the X-Duo XD05 Pro. That's a portable DAC and headphone amp with an interchangeable DAC module system. One of those modules containing the flagship ROM chip, the 34301. And frankly, I was not very impressed with that DAC. Reading from ROM's datasheet, they state that the 34352, the one in the SMSL D1, is specifically tuned to powerfully express the energy of sound sources while maintaining the natural flat sound characteristics of ROM's DAC chip's design concept. At the same time, an advanced digital filter is included, the same as used for the 34301. This leads to superior numerical performance of the DAC chip, making it ideal for high-end audio equipment. It's clearly not only the DAC chip that's producing the sound. And whatever SMSL did in the power supply and the output stage with this little box is extremely impressive for its asking price. If you've seen my review of the PS200, you'll know that I prefer it over the SU1. And it was my pick for 2024 Best DAC under $100. ASR gave it excellent reviews, but for some reason, the SU1 still got more attention. While not as natural sounding as the SU1, it's simply far more detailed, with shimmering highs and more accurate bass. But again, the SU1 is more natural sounding. Now comparing these 3 DACs, the D1, the SU1, and the PS200, the D1 instantly blew me away, as I expected the sound to be similar to that of what I heard on the X-Duo. Not at all. The D1 keeps the details of the PS200 as well as its treble extension, plus delivers it with the natural feel of the SU1. But the biggest difference is in soundstage. The soundstage explodes to something 2 classes above. Super impressive for its price point. The depth is great as well, kind of an R2R type of space. The bass is the only thing that suffers, if you can even say that. It's still great, but not as tight as on the PS200. Between these 3, I don't see how I could recommend the older 2 models, and would go as far to say that if you have the PS200 or the SU1, it would be worth an upgrade to the D1. Next, I compared to my daily driver DAC in my den space, my SMSL D200 Pro. And here's why I say the soundstage jumps 2 classes. My bedroom DAC is an SMSL D100 Pro, similar to a topping D50 Mark III. Those are definitely a step above the DACs in the $100 price point. The DO200 Pro is similar to the topping D70 Octo, and still one step above in price point. While the D1 matches the DO200 Pro in soundstage width, depth, treble extension, and detail. And the D1 does present a touch more forward in the vocal range. Now the DO200 Pro is still ahead in imaging and layering, as well as in clarity, does have a darker background, and is more natural still. So I wouldn't call the D1 a giant killer, but at its price point, it's a clear winner for me. It's a fun and energetic DAC in the best ways, and my pick for 2025 best DAC under $100. I'll post a companion video with some sound demos, and remember, the sound demo is just so you can see if you can hear any differences, not necessarily their true sound quality. You won't know that until you plug them in into your system. One final thing that we'll do on this video just for fun is we'll take a look at some Amazon reviews. I thought I'd look up the SMSL D1 on Amazon, and for the most part it had good positive reviews, but it had a couple negative ones. And here's what those look like. Now I did have Google translate these. The top one was originally in Dutch and the bottom one in German. So let's see why this first reviewer gave this unit a 1 star. Purchased for analog use with a TV, but that doesn't work at all. Where are you going to advertise your product on something that is completely impossible? You create problems for yourself and the buyer. So I don't understand what the issue is here. If they already have analog out on their TV, most likely that's in the form of either a 3.5mm jack or RCA outs, then they don't need a DAC, which is a digital to analog converter. Let's continue. I have connected the device to the TV in various ways, but no sound comes out. Either the device does not work with the TV or the device is faulty. The device does not match the description given. Now I read the description, and on this specific case, I would definitely say that the description does match. And this is when the consumer has to be informed as to what they're purchasing. But let's move forward. Even worse, before I bought the DAC, I contacted the SMSL salesman who said I could connect it to the TV via USB. Apparently that does not work at all, because this DAC can't work without an audio driver. Installing an audio driver on a TV? That's not going to work out easily. Now in this section, if somebody at SMSL did give this person that advice, that's definitely bad advice. I don't know any TV that has USB audio out from their USB ports. When you do see a USB port on a TV, it's usually to connect either a hard drive or a flash drive that has images for playback, or has a 5-volt power source to charge other devices connected to it. Having a USB sent out audio is a very specialized task, and the TV would need a special chip for that. When you do want to connect your TV to a DAC, you'll need a digital output, and usually here you'll see a Toslink out. Or you can also use an HDMI cable if you have ARC on your TV and an HDMI ARC on your DAC as well. So for this review, I do think that the 1-star review was unwarranted. I think the buyer should have been a little more educated themselves. Let's go on to the second one. Again, this one was translated from German. What can I write and say? I'm disappointed with the music that comes out. In comparison and blind test, I listened with my very old Wellbach 6064 once, with very different sources of all music genres. Overall, the SMSL D1 sounds less brilliant, precise, powerful, and dynamic. A bit pale. Smaller soundstage, less depth, not so that I want to hear the SMSL D1. In any case, no progress over the old DAC. So this review goes on to say that compared to their previous DAC, they just don't like the sound of the D1. And that's a completely valid argument. Yes, you might not like it compared to your previous DAC. However, that doesn't mean that nobody else will. Other purchasers might be comparing it to very different DACs. I personally love the sound of this DAC, and I think it very much resembles the sound that comes out of my vintage brand CD player. Although with more detail, but with those same spatial cues. So not every DAC is for everybody, but my opinion still stands. 2025 best DAC under $100. So that's all I have for this one. Thanks for watching everybody, and I'll see you on the next one.